Every year, 6 billion pounds of spent coffee grounds end up in American landfills. That is 6 billion pounds of organic matter rich in nitrogen, potassium, and over a dozen micronutrients, rotting underground and releasing methane instead of feeding gardens. Coffee grounds are one of the most powerful free soil amendments available to any home grower, but the science is specific, and the margin between benefit and damage is thinner than most gardeners realize. Used incorrectly, coffee grounds do not just fail, they actively destroy the plants they were meant to help. Here are 6 mistakes that turn a perfect amendment into a plant killer, and the science-backed fixes for each one. The potential is real. A 2025 review published in Agronomy, covering 87 studies on spent coffee grounds as soil amendments, confirmed that properly processed grounds improve soil organic matter, water retention, and microbial activity across multiple soil types. A 2025 ACS Sustainable Resource Management publication documented coffee ground amendments enhancing soil fertility, water holding capacity, and crop yields when application methods were correct. The research is clear. Coffee grounds belong in your garden. But the research is equally clear about what happens when the method is wrong. A 2016 study from the University of Melbourne, published in Science Direct, tested spent coffee grounds across 5 plant species and 3 soil types. Growth was suppressed in every single combination, every species, every soil. The variable was not the coffee, it was how it was applied. That gap between potential and disaster is where these 6 mistakes live. And every one of them has a specific science-backed fix. Mistake number 1. The nitrogen robbery. Using fresh grounds straight on plants. After my last video on coffee ground benefits, dozens of viewers wrote in asking the same question. They had added grounds to their garden, and within 2 weeks, their plants turned yellow. Leaves lost color from the bottom up. Growth stalled. It looked like starvation. And it was. But not because the soil was empty, because something was stealing from it. When fresh, unaged coffee grounds hit soil, bacteria arrive immediately to begin decomposition. But coffee grounds have a carbon-to-nitrogen ratio of roughly 20:1. That means the microbes digesting the grounds consume more nitrogen than the grounds themselves contain. So the bacteria pull the difference directly from the surrounding soil. Researchers call this nitrogen immobilization. Your plants experience it as sudden starvation. Oregon State University Extension confirmed that as coffee grounds break down, nitrogen is tied up by soil microorganisms, reducing what is available for plant roots. The 2025 Agronomy Review documented that raw, spent coffee grounds induce nitrogen immobilization, and that plant growth is often limited by the phytotoxicity of unprocessed grounds. A 2024 Science Direct study on chrysanthemum growth confirmed that fresh grounds release toxic compounds, including caffeine, phenols, and tannins, into the root zone. The fix is aging. Set a bucket of used coffee grounds aside for 2 to 4 weeks before applying to any garden bed. During that window, microbial colonization begins, caffeine concentration drops, and the most aggressive nitrogen demand passes. Aged grounds work. Fresh grounds rob. If your plants yellowed after you added coffee grounds, this is exactly why. Mistake number 2. The crust of death. Applying coffee grounds in a thick layer. The instinct makes sense. Coffee grounds are good for soil, so more must be better. Gardeners pile grounds 1 to 2 inches thick across their beds, or they add a handful every morning, and the layer accumulates over weeks. Then something strange happens. They water, and the water beads up and slides off the surface. Their plants begin wilting in soil that looks moist. The problem is invisible until you understand what coffee grounds become when they dry. Coffee grounds are extraordinarily fine particles. When spread thickly on soil and exposed to air, they bond into a dense, cement-like mat that is completely hydrophobic. Water cannot penetrate. Roots below that mat slowly suffocate and dehydrate, while the gardener stands there with a running hose, watching the water sheet sideways across the surface. The UC Master Gardeners of Santa Clara County confirmed that firmly packed coffee grounds, when dried, become hydrophobic and resist wetting. Washington State University Extension documented that pure coffee grounds used as mulch compact into a barrier to moisture and air movement. Multiple extension programs recommend against applying coffee grounds as a surface layer without incorporation. The fix requires 4 rules. Maximum 1/4-inch layer, the thickness of 2 stacked coins. Always rake or scratch grounds lightly into the top inch of soil. Cover with coarse mulch like wood chips, straw, or bark. And never allow coffee grounds to sit exposed on the soil surface. The crust is real, it forms within days. And once it sets, it is remarkably difficult to re-wet. Mistake number 3. The caffeine trap. Sprinkling grounds around seedlings and new transplants. Caffeine is not an accident of chemistry, it is a weapon. Coffee plants evolved caffeine production over millions of years for a specific purpose: to suppress the germination and root development of competing seedlings in the soil beneath them. When a coffee tree drops its leaves and fruit onto the ground, the caffeine that leaches into the surrounding soil inhibits cell division in the root tips of nearby plants. It is a targeted, evolved chemical defense system, and it works just as effectively in your garden as it does in a tropical forest. Research published in the Journal of Chemical Ecology demonstrated that caffeine at concentrations found in coffee plant tissue inhibits mitosis and cell plate formation, specifically in the root tips of young seedlings. A Brazilian study on coffee residue allelopathy, published through the Scientific Research Publishing Network, confirmed that increasing doses of coffee residue delay growth in seedlings, with the inhibitory effect linked directly to caffeine and its allelopathic metabolites. Tomato seedlings, broccoli starts, clover, alfalfa, and many flower species are particularly vulnerable. The fix is distance and patience. Never apply coffee grounds within 6 inches of newly planted seedlings. Wait until plants are at least 4 to 6 weeks established before any coffee ground contact. For young plants, only use fully composted grounds that have spent 8 or more weeks in a hot compost pile. And never, under any circumstances, apply coffee grounds to seed-starting beds. The caffeine your morning cup removed from the grounds is significant, but what remains is more than enough to stunt or kill a vulnerable transplant. Mistake number 4. The great acidity lie. Believing the pH myth and applying to the wrong plants. This is the mistake built on 50 years of wrong advice repeated so often it became gospel. Gardeners save their coffee grounds exclusively for blueberries, azaleas, and hydrangeas because the grounds are acidic. Other gardeners avoid coffee grounds entirely on their tomatoes, peppers, and lettuce because the grounds are too acidic. Both groups are wrong, and the chemistry explains exactly why. Coffee beans contain chlorogenic acid, quinic acid, and citric acid. Those acids are water-soluble. During brewing, hot water extracts the vast majority of those acidic compounds and carries them into your cup. What remains in the filter, the spent grounds, has been stripped of most of its acid content. Oregon State University Extension measured spent coffee grounds at pH 6.5 to 6.8, which is nearly perfectly neutral. The University of Minnesota Extension confirmed the same finding, stating that coffee grounds have not been shown to consistently lower soil pH. A 2026 Smart Garden Guru field test documented coffee ground beds showing less than 0.1 pH unit change after 6 full months of application. The fix is liberation. Use spent coffee grounds on any plant with proper aging and application technique. Do not expect them to turn hydrangea blossoms blue. That will not happen. Do not avoid them on alkaline-tolerant crops. There is no risk. If you genuinely need to acidify soil, elemental sulfur is the correct tool. Fresh, unbrewed coffee grounds retain some acidity, but spent grounds from your morning cup are not the acidifying agent that decades of recycled advice promised they would be. Mistake number 5. The sweet trap. Using flavored, oily, or sweetened coffee grounds. Not all coffee grounds are created equal, and this is a detail most gardening advice never mentions. Flavored coffees, hazelnut, vanilla, caramel, and seasonal blends are manufactured using synthetic flavoring oils applied to beans immediately after roasting. Those compounds are not food-grade soil amendments. They are industrial flavor chemicals designed for human consumption in liquid form, not for microbial ecosystems in soil. Sugary and creamy residues from coffee prepared with milk, cream, syrups, or sweeteners create an entirely different problem. Sugar and dairy residues attract pests, including rats, ants, and fungus gnats. They also generate anaerobic patches in soil where beneficial microbes cannot survive, creating localized dead zones that spread as the residue decomposes. Oily espresso grounds compound the hydrophobic crust problem, described in mistake number 2, forming water-repellent pockets that block moisture penetration even when the overall layer is thin. The fix is simple filtration at the source. Only save grounds from plain, unsweetened, unflavored coffee. Black drip coffee grounds are safe. Plain espresso grounds are safe in moderation. Anything that touched flavored creamers, syrups, sugar, or milk goes into the municipal compost bin, not directly onto your garden beds. This is the kind of detail that separates informed application from accidental damage, and most gardeners have never once considered it. Mistake number 6. The worm killer. Overloading worm bins and compost piles. This one contradicts what nearly every composting guide on the internet will tell you. Worms love coffee grounds. That sentence appears on thousands of gardening websites, and it is true in the same way that humans love chocolate. Moderate amounts are beneficial. Excess amounts cause real harm, and the threshold is far lower than most people expect. A study evaluating 3 composting systems for spent coffee ground management found that worm mortality increased significantly when coffee grounds were the dominant feedstock. The researchers attributed the fatalities to acidification beyond worm tolerance and the accumulation of toxic organic compounds in concentrated doses. The low carbon to nitrogen ratio of coffee grounds, approximately 20:1, also generates excessive heat during decomposition, which can kill beneficial microbes and drive temperatures above the range that red wigglers survive. Oregon State University Extension recommends coffee grounds never exceed 20% of total compost pile volume, and notes that exceeding 30% has often been detrimental. For worm bins, the maximum safe addition is 2 to 3 tablespoons of coffee grounds per feeding, always mixed thoroughly with regular kitchen scraps. In compost piles, ground bins must be applied in thin layers, alternated generously with brown materials like shredded cardboard, dried leaves, or straw. Never use coffee grounds as the sole or primary feed source in any biological decomposition system. The pattern across all 6 mistakes is the same. Coffee grounds are not the problem. The application method is the problem. Used correctly, spent coffee grounds deliver organic matter, slow-release nitrogen, microbial food, and soil structure improvement for free. Used incorrectly, they starve plants of nitrogen, suffocate roots under hydrophobic crusts, poison seedlings with residual caffeine, attract pests with sugar residue, and kill the very worms meant to process them. The science settled this. A 2025 review covering 87 studies confirmed that composted and properly aged coffee grounds enhance soil health across every metric that matters. A 2025 ACS publication documented measurable improvements in fertility, water retention, and crop yields when application rates and preparation methods followed the research. The amendments work, the conditions are specific, and now you know every one of them. Start with the aging bucket. Collect your daily grounds in a 5-gallon container with drainage holes and let them sit for 2 to 4 weeks before any garden application. Apply a maximum 1/4-inch layer, scratched into the top inch of soil and covered with coarse mulch. Keep grounds away from seedlings for at least 4 to 6 weeks. Ignore the acidity myth, filter out flavored and sweetened grounds at the source, and never let coffee grounds exceed 20% of any compost or worm bin system. 6 billion pounds of coffee grounds go to waste in American landfills every year. Yours do not have to be part of that number. The science shows exactly how to turn your morning cup into permanent soil fertility, for free, for as long as you grow. If this seed was finally freed for you, subscribe to Hank's Gardening Journey and hit the bell. Every like and every share helps the next gardener get this right. The next seed breaks free soon.